Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming to my channel, D versus Debt. This is D, and today's a little bit different because I wanted to talk about one of my side hustles. So that is to make printables and to sell them on Etsy, as you know. And the printables are a big part of my channel itself when I do my savings challenges, my sinking funds, all of that stuff. So I figured it'd be a good idea to show you how my printables break down in terms of the fees that Etsy charges. Right now is a really important time to talk about that because in April those fees are going to go up. So that's good information to know. I'll also talk about selling digital items versus selling physical products and the things you need to keep in mind when it comes to expenses and materials when you're trying to figure out your profits, your costs, all that stuff as you're trying to work on how to price your products. And then I'll do a show and tell of these newest printables that I just released into my Etsy shop. Let's start first with the show and tell, and I'm going to start with my favorite printable. I was cracking up, y'all, as I was making this because I thought it was just hilarious. Lately, since November, December, it's just one of these after the other. All these big expenses keep coming up, so I figured, okay, I need a poop emergency fund tracker. So the poop emoji happens to be my favorite, and I guess here's a fun fact. My niece had her DNA tested and did the whole ancestry thing. Turns out we're direct descendants of Montezuma, as in Montezuma's revenge, as in poop. So my claim to fame, I guess, is I'm like 1% Aztec princess. But this, I think, is something important that everybody should have in mind when it comes to being prepared for an emergency. You just never know what's going to come up. For me, it's been medical bills, vet bills, school bills, just one thing after the other is constantly popping up. So to be prepared and to avoid a mess, I think it's good to set your goal. So I love this inside the little toilet paper roll and then color it in as you make your progress. So you get to choose the amounts, the goal amount, and what each little emoji represents. It also is a great excuse for me to use my brown highlighter that I like so much but that I hardly ever use. So I'm excited about this one. Here's a confession that a lot of times when I design printables, I keep myself in mind and the things that I need. So my reasoning is if they don't sell, at least I can use my own printable. So right now I really need a computer. The one I have is super old, so old that it doesn't update, so it doesn't let me do a lot of things. It gives me a hard time when it comes to a lot of stuff. But it's a computer that literally my brother put together for a couple $100. So I'm very thankful for it, but it's time to replace it. They are pricey, especially the one that I want. It's not something fancy, but it's like $1,500 for basically a basic Mac for school, for work, for my side hustles, all that stuff. So this will help me keep tabs of how much I've saved up. Maybe it's $100 per little computer screen, and I think it's going to look great when you color in the screen as you save each amount towards the goal that you set to save up for. This one is a general savings tracker. So it's a total of $50 signs. Again, you decide what your goal amount is and how much each one represents. So maybe it's $100. Every time you set aside $100 into your sinking fund for whatever category you decide, then you color in a dollar icon. So I really like the nice clean look of this one and the little dollar bill for the savings sign. This one is another one that I made with myself in mind because I dread having my taxes done every year because it is so expensive. So it's usually between $200 to $300, and I realized if every single week in the year, because there's 52 weeks, I save just $5 a week, that's $260. And that's about how much my bill is, which means that I can be ready if I save $5 a week leading up to when I go have my taxes done. It's a lot less stressful because the money has been building up over the whole year and it's just sitting there. So you can use this how you want. Maybe it's to pay off a tax bill, maybe it's for property taxes, whatever it is, it's customizable to what you want because you get to decide your goals, your amounts, and how you're going to track it. And last but not least is another one that I also kept general. I think this is going to look really cute when you start coloring in the icons, especially if they're very colorful, they'll pop. So this one, you get to decide what you're saving for, what the goal amount is, and what each little icon represents. There's a total of 100. So that'll help you decide how much each is worth. Maybe you're trying to save up $5,000. Maybe you're just trying to save up $100, and each one is $1. It's totally up to you. So those are the listings that I just released today in my Etsy shop, and that's linked in my description box down below. We can just click over to that and shop around. Now let's get into how much it costs to sell and what the fees are on Etsy. So all of my printables in the shop are $1.25. The only other digital item that is priced different is my $1 tip jar, but everything else in terms of my digital printables are $1.25. And so this is what it breaks down to. Etsy has these fees. Because it's a digital file, obviously I don't have to pay shipping and other fees that Etsy charges. So if you're thinking of being a printable seller, just keep in mind that this is what you should expect when it comes to your fees. However, again, in April, prices are going to go up, which means probably that a lot of sellers are also going to increase the price of their products as well to keep up with the increase. So all my printables are $1.25. For every printable that I sell, then Etsy charges me 20 cents when that printable sells. They'll also charge me 6 cents as a transaction fee, and they're going to charge me 29 cents as a processing fee. The amount that you'll end up paying depends on your item, on the price of your item. So these are the fee breakdowns for an item that's $1.25. However, if your item is like, let's say $50, this is going to look much different. The only fee that stays the same no matter what the price is the 20-cent listing fees. But these will fluctuate depending on your price. So my printable minus the listing fee, minus the transaction fee, minus the processing fee means I make a profit of 70 cents per printable. But you have to keep in mind also to factor in other things. So for example, maybe there are expenses related to creating your printables. Like let's say you're paying $13 a month to use Canva to create your printables and for the clip art, then you would have to factor that into what your actual profit is. Maybe you also paid for a cute font on site that should be factored into here as well. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind, but really when it comes down to digital products, to digital files, is the time. How much time did it take you to create that product? My first few printables took forever to create. So I don't consider myself making a lot of profit off of those because it was a lot of time put into it. And maybe if you only sell one or two, then really you didn't make much profit at all. So this is what to keep in mind when it comes to digital products. However, if you're interested in selling physical products, let me show you the next page. There's a lot more to keep in mind. So for example, I'm going to start listing cash envelopes into my Etsy shop again. I used to sell them years ago and I pulled the listings because I basically lost my shirt. I wasn't making profits because I didn't take a lot of these things into consideration. So here's what you need to keep in mind when you're selling a physical product. So for me, since I'll be selling these items, this is a list of items that I have to factor into how much to charge, how much profit I'm going to make. So to make my vellum cash envelopes, I need vellum. So if I'm going to make a set of 6 cash envelopes, I'm going to need at least 2 sheets of vellum, 3 if I mess up making one of them, and I do mess up a lot. So that's something to keep in mind is the prices of vellum. Laminating sheets. Each envelope takes a total of 2 laminating sheets, and I use the expensive one because I use the super thick, extra thick laminating sheets, and every envelope is a set of 2. So that's why it says times 2. The cash envelopes come with a set of tabs, so I have to factor the price of the tabs into my overall price and profit and, all of that stuff. I have to pay for the bubble mailer, so the item that I ship my envelopes in so that they are protected and they don't get too beat up by the post office. So you have to think about the cost of that. You also have to pay for the cost of the plastic pouch. And so this is a clear pouch that your envelopes go into to keep them safe and dry in case the envelope tears. So that's another cost to think about. Sticker paper. You're going to need to print your shipping labels And you got to make sure it's quality sticker paper so that it actually stays on your mailer, on your envelope, but also that the ink is held by the paper. In other words, so it doesn't smear and is hard to read and is hard to scan for the barcode and all of that stuff. You need copy paper because you have to print out your invoice that goes inside of the envelope, letting the customer know how much they paid, all of that stuff. So you have to factor the cost of paper into that. You need ink to print your invoices as well as your labels. You need tools to create your items. So for me, for example, I have to use a special wire cutter. This helps me see exactly where to cut on my envelopes. I need a jar punch for these particular sets of envelopes that have the little jar window. So I have to use this punch to create that little window. And I price checked it on Amazon and I think it was something like $30. It kind of gave me a heart attack when, when I did a price check. So remember, like, let's say you break your punch, then you have to go back and buy a new one and replace it. So, you know, things like that you have to keep in mind. I have to use a corner rounder tool. So I just bought a new one. I'm on my third one already because they wear down from use. And so this is to make the edges of your envelopes rounder. So again, if it breaks, you need to replace it. So you have to keep the price of this tool in mind. You need the laminator itself. So it's not going to fit in frame, but I am on laminator number 3. So I've broken 2 laminators so far. Thankfully, it seems like the third one's the charm, but fingers crossed that I don't break that one. We'll see. But again, those are pricey to replace every time you break it. I have to buy blades because my cutter wears down. So these blades right here, once they wear down, they don't cut through the laminate, and I go through these pretty quickly because laminate, at least the one that I use for my cash envelopes, is very thick and hard to cut, so it wears through these. So these are, you know, pricey to replace, so you got to keep that expense in mind as well. And then remember, you also should factor in your time. How long does it take to make, in my case, the cash envelopes? So that's something else to keep in mind. Another item to keep in mind, and I put the asterisk on it because shipping. Are you going to pay for shipping yourself and eat the fee basically, or are you going to have the customer pay through Etsy? However, sometimes the amounts don't add up. So you got to be careful. Like, I also lost money with this the first time around because I listed it for one price, but then it ended up being more expensive to ship. So just be super careful with that. Another thing to keep in mind is that Etsy is attaching a higher shipping fee to this. So in addition to make you pay for shipping, there's also a fee for processing your shipping. The things I listed in gray are things I don't personally use, but maybe you want to use in your physical products. So make sure that you include those costs into your overall analysis of how much you're going to make in terms of prices and how much you're going to charge. Some people spend money on shipping stickers. So for example, maybe you want labels for your envelopes, for your mailers that say fragile, do not bend, or something cute like thank you for making a purchase. So those are things to keep in mind. Business cards, are you going to include business cards into each order, and how much does that cost you? And some Etsy sellers like to include freebies in their items with their orders. So that's something else to keep in mind, because this is where I went overboard as well, and I lost a lot of money giving out a lot of freebies. So these are items to keep in mind. So a lot to think about. Again, with Etsy's fees going up next month, you're going to see probably prices going up as well for a lot of Etsy shops. So that's something that all of us as Etsy sellers are struggling with right now. Should we increase our prices so that we can still manage to make a little bit of profit? So for example, for me, instead of making 70 cents per printable now for each one I sell, the price is going to go down. So should I push my price up? That's something I kind of have to think about myself and mull it over, because I like the fact that I have super cheap printables because I want to help out people that are on a budget. The whole purpose of my printables is to help people save money. So to me, it doesn't make sense to sell expensive printables. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Are you an Etsy seller? Are you struggling with the fees, with the increases, all of that? Are you a customer, and what are your thoughts about that? So I'd look forward to hearing your comments. If you made it all the way to the end, go ahead and leave me an orange heart in the comments so that I know you watched the whole thing through. orange heart to represent Etsy. And again, I'm looking for your thoughts, your opinions, ideas, things like that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.